Greetings and welcome back to the CBMW podcast, your weekly download of cutting-edge complementarian commentary and one-stop shop for egalitarian opposition research. I am your host, Jonathan Swan, the executive editor of Icon, a journal for biblical anthropology, and I am joined by my friend Colin Smothers, also serves as the executive director of CBMW. Colin, how you doing today?
Doing great, John. It is good to be back in the saddle here. We took a few weeks off, various travel and engagements. We are still missing our third half, if that makes any sense, Denny Burke.
Our president has gone missing. He will be back. He will be back.
He hasn't abandoned
fault.
us. Yeah,
he hasn't.
Yeah.
No, we're thankful for that. Well, yeah, no, everybody's eyes were lighting up as they see the new CBMW podcast roll into their podcast feed. So we are back. We're here for you. Okay, Colin and I are going to talk for a few minutes here about a really a big win, at least a preliminary win in parental rights, and I would say moral sanity. Hopefully it becomes a full win. But it was reported last week that the Supreme Court granted an emergency appeal to parents in California who are arguing that a California law that allows students, or schools that is, to hide their child's so-called gender transition violates their parental rights. And also teachers, I think, are part of this court complaint, saying that it violates their rights, having to be compelled to follow these laws. According to the court statement, parents also objected to schools using their child's preferred pronouns, to quote the decision, regardless of their parents' wishes. Colin, you've done some reading on what's going on here. Hey, what are we to take away from at least this preliminary appeal?
Yeah, I mean, I think Daniel Sir, he wrote a column in World Opinions, and he talked about how crazy of a time we're living in, that this decision, this argument, had to make it all the way up to the Supreme Court for the justices, and not a unanimous decision, but six, the conservative bloc, six justices granting this emergency stay on, and, you know, just to put it in layman's terms, on the question of whether a school has the right to transition a parent's child without the parent's knowledge, hiding intentionally that information from them. So again, I'm trying to set the table for this conversation. You are a parent in California. You send your 6-year-old, your 7-year-old to school, innocently thinking they're going to go learn about math and science and history. And then they're going to come back and you're going to be able to ask them about their day. They'll tell you and everything will be great. Unbeknownst to you, you drop off little Johnny, and the teacher introduces him to gender ideology, the gender unicorn, whatever it is, and maybe seeds the idea that he might be a girl trapped in a boy's body. And little Johnny, impressionable, I should say, as he is, hears this and thinks, well, maybe I'm actually Sally. Maybe I'm not Johnny. Maybe my pronouns are she, her. And the teacher all along is encouraging this with the books and the ideology that teacher is feeding them. And so at school, you drop little Johnny off, and the teacher is calling him now Sally and referring to Johnny as she, her. But when Johnny comes home, the parent says nothing about it, or the teacher says nothing about it to the parent. In fact, intentionally hides this from the parent, and on this goes. Now, here's what makes it even more crazy and wicked and insane. Okay, number one, we have parents sending their children to schools that employ teachers that would do that, right? Number one, that would do that thing, that would think that is part of their job to transition children to a different gender apart from their parents' knowledge. Why is that happening? Because our education institutions are captured by leftist ideologies, the teachers' colleges, the education system from top down, from the Department of Education on down, especially under the Biden and the Obama years. That's happening. Number two, why this is crazy. California state legislature passed a law that not only made this legal, but actually made it policy for the state that teachers and schools should hide these transitions from parents. And it was signed into law by guess who? Gavin Newsom in 2024. That's the second layer of crazy. The third layer of crazy. A sane federal judge decided that this was actually majorly unconstitutional, major infringement on parental rights. So he put a stay on the law. He ruled it unconstitutional. That gets appealed up to the Ninth Circuit, a very liberal court of appeals, and they overturn the appeal. So these liberal judges agree with Gavin Newsom and the liberal teachers, et cetera. And then that's the reason why this is at the Supreme Court, because these parents in California, they are just beside themselves. They can't believe this is what's happening. So they appeal to the Supreme Court. And here's the fourth layer of crazy. The court looks at this and all of the justices don't say, yeah, no brainer. Of course, parents should know about what's happening with their children at school. Instead, the three liberal judges, Kagan, Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson, they all agree with Newsom. And thankfully, the six conservative justices agree with the federal judge that originally put that stay and give relief to these California parents.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of layers of crazy there, Colin. Thanks for delineating those for us. It is amazing. I read in some of the articles that I read. The one article I read here. By the way, I want to quote the title of this article. It's from Courthouse News Service, just so we all are aware of where most of the media is coming from when they report on these things. Here's the title to what an article that describes what Colin did, of course, in very different terms. Supreme Court forces California to out trans students. So again, it's not about parents and their rights with regard to their child's upbringing. It's about outing trans students. So the aggressor here is these six, we call them conservative, I guess conservative appointed Supreme Court justice. It's not the violator here. The oppressor here is not the California state legislator that signed this law or that voted for this law. It's not Gavin Newsom who signed the law. It's not the superintendents who have been, I've not heard of any news stories where you have superintendents walking out, objecting, or anything of the like. I'm not hearing stories about teachers until now. As I said at the introduction, I'm really glad, encouraged to see that there are teachers who are also concerned, because you do have individuals teaching in California whose consciences aren't completely and utterly lost in all of this. You have some of them who do not want to be compelled to follow these laws. So what we have is the state facilitating, encouraging child's transition. I can't tell you, even locally here in the St. Louis area, the middle of America, I've seen pictures of students' classrooms. You have an LGBT flag. Colin, you sent us a picture a few weeks ago of a classroom that had, I think, the LGBT trans flag, and then it was the Hamas flag, a Palestinian flag. We can celebrate all of these things. We can encourage all of these ideologies, which are really, they're a stand-in for a legitimate traditional religion. We have excised the Christian religion out of our schools, and what we've brought in with it is now this liberal, progressive ideology, and all of these are fair game. We can't have public prayer in school, and on top of all that, parents now apparently don't have the right to know whether their child is transitioning. Colin, I was a middle school teacher for a few years. The fact that we have teachers talking about these kind of subjects to these young people is highly inappropriate. It's like we have completely accepted that this is just normal, that we have these kind of conversations outside of your biological reproductive conversations that you have at school. Right. I cannot imagine talking to kids about their gender identity or their sexual orientation, and on top of that, hiding it from their parents.
Right. And encouraging an ideology that the reason why you're hiding it from the parents is because you know it's actually contrary to what they're being taught at home. And I think that's honestly, John, the scariest part about all of this, because again, put yourself in the shoes of a parent in California, again, maybe innocently sending your child to the public education system, thinking they're going to get a standard public education, the kind that you grew up with. Maybe you went to the same school or the same type of school. And the point is, they are communicating things to your children. They are, and this is the word for it, indoctrinating your children with an ideology and then intentionally hiding it from you. Here's the scary part. That means you don't know what you don't know when it comes to public education in California, and I hate to say it, public education across this country. And so this needs to be a 5-alarm fire in the minds of parents across the country, Christian parents across the country, who are sending their children to public schools. And you might be asking your child, what are you learning at home? You might be asking your teacher, their teacher, what are you teaching them at school? And you might be getting a lie, something hidden from you. And again, that was a matter of policy signed into law by Gavin Newsom, the man who thinks he's going to run for president of the United States in 2028. And a lot of progressives are right now themselves beginning to organize themselves behind. So the lesson here, number one, you need to know and be very involved in your child's education, and you need to do some digging. And I would trust but verify, emphasis on verify. You need to verify that the things that you think are going on are indeed the things that are going on. And I would be at this point, I think there's actually a posture of suspicion that is warranted toward the public education system if this is the kind of baloney that they're pushing in California. And we know California, what happens in California doesn't stay in California. In many ways, it's the leading edge of the progressive march through the institutions that has happened across this country for the last 50, 60, 80 years. So parents need to be aware, and we need to be thankful that this decision reached this court in this time. Imagine if this was a few years ago when there wasn't a conservative majority on the court. Why is there a conservative majority on the court? It's because Donald Trump got to appoint 3 conservative justices onto the court against the advice of many even evangelical leaders trying to tell you that your vote maybe doesn't matter here, or maybe that's one of the most important issues at this election or whatever. What we need to take away again from this story is elections have consequences, and the things that you are voting for, the people you're voting for, the platforms you're supporting, they have material real life effect. And because of the way that the elections went in 2016 and even 2024, that is having a material effect downstream on our court. And thank the Lord that this decision reached this court at this time. And parents in California have some relief. They will, Lord willing, know what's happening with their children in those California schools.
Well, thank you, Colin. All right, guys, we will do our very best to get the president back next week. But until then, you can find out more about what we do at CBMW at cbmw.org.